that's it for today, I guess. So see you all in the next one, and goodbye. I'm so happy with this video. I tried a bit of a different style with this one, but I think it worked really well, and I can't wait to work on the next one. Damn, I feel like I forgot something. Just cannot really point at it. Hold on, is this an intro sketch? Okay, first things first. A couple months ago when Grazzy released his last video, go check that one out by the way, we chatted about our upcoming project plans. Oh, we do not mention that here. Can you stop already? So anyways, Grazzy told me about his Mario Kart project idea where he basically wanted to work on a couple of his favorite Mario Kart tracks. So naturally, as a person that enjoys suffering, I was like, how about we make that functional? Totally underestimating how long that would take. Anyways, after Grazzy agreed to this, the new plan was basically to make a fully functional Mario Kart game in Minecraft, where he makes the tracks and I make the Datapack. Okay, great! But where do we even start? Mario Kart in Minecraft sounds easy, right? All I need is a working card, a full-blown item system, tracking, gliders, characters. Wait, did I think about this for a second? Luckily, we didn't need to start entirely from scratch. Howzieky, who was busy with his latest video at the time, has put a lot of effort into making a fully working master cycle from Breath of the Wild. And believe me when I say, this man optimized the shit out of this. Howzieky will get involved more later in the project, but for now he just gave me his master cycle code so I could tweak it for our new use case. The first thing I did was modeling the cards. Normally you might want to do something like this later in your workflow, but personally I like to do the visuals early in my projects. And honestly, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I then started tweaking the master cycle code. Most of the default mechanics were there already, including a basic ability to drift, but of course, since this wasn't made as a recreation of Mario Kart in the first place, I eventually had to modify it. So just like in Mario Kart, I added a boost you can get by drifting. If you hold it for a short amount of time, you'll get a small boost, and if you hold it for longer, you'll get a bigger boost respectively. There were other minor things I tweaked on this, but for now the basic controls felt really well already and I was ready to move on to the next step. Tracking the player on the actual tracks that Grazzy built. So, how can we actually track how well a player does? It's important to know how much of the course the player has cleared, since of course we need to assign a proper place to each player. But how does our code even know how the track goes? First things first. If we have a straight track like this, the idea is simple. First, get the closest point from the player anywhere on this line. Second, check how much percent of the entire line that point marks. You can think of it like a progress bar that tracks your journey from point A to point B. However, of course tracks aren't exactly straight lines, they are complex winding paths like this one. That's where splines come in. Basically, a spline is a set of connected lines. Each line has a starting point and an end point. Each point also serves as the starting point for the next line. For Minecraft, I simply created a spawn egg that automatically spawns and connects a bunch of marker entities. Every entity here carries the reference for the next entity in the spline, which is actually done by setting the owner of a snowball. You see, Minecraft stores the entity that threw the snowball in order to show custom death messages. And we can actually exploit the system to store the reference of another entity inside the snowball. Turns out that this is a very efficient way of dealing with this problem, because we'd otherwise run countless IDE commands. Okay, let's break it down some more. We've got two vectors here. One point from the start of the line to the end of the line. Another one points from the start of the line to the player. Using some vector magic, aka the dot product, we can find the player's closest point on the spline. Now, in order to know if that line is even relevant for us, we need to know how far away it is compared to the other lines. So what we are looking for is the distance between the player and his closest point on this line. However, there's an issue. You see, in order to calculate the distance between 2 points, I need to use square roots, something Datapacks don't have access to. Which means, yeah, we're pretty much cooked. Never mind guys, luckily I had a brilliant solution to this problem. We just don't do it. The truth is, I'll lie to you. We don't actually care how far away these points exactly are. We just want to be able to say, okay, this line is closer to us than this line. So essentially this means that it doesn't matter for us how fast the distance grows, which is why we can easily use the squared distance here. If we do that for every line in the spline, only assigning a value if it was closer than what we already had, we'll end up with the closest point on the entire spline for that given player. Finally, we give the player a summed up score of where on the spline he is. Also, each time the player crosses the finish line after driving a whole lap, we'll add 100% to their score, making the best score, or in other words the condition to finish the race, 300%. And with all of that combined, we can track which player we need to put in which place. However, there's one big issue with the system. It has no idea how we got here. Which means, normally you could easily drive behind the finish line to finish an entire lap. I could say, oh, the player has to be on every line at least once, but that would prevent any shortcut from working. So here's the deal. Every time we assign a new score to the player, we check if that new score's difference is more than 30% of the track. If so, we'll not assign it. This ensures that shortcuts still work, but if the player tried to cheese it, he'd need to cross 70% of the track backwards and then drive all the way back. Now, what's Mario Kart without items? Okay, no, gotta be honest, this is where things get fun actually. Just like with the cards, I started by doing the sprites for all the items. Many of these have 3D models as well, but I do prefer textures for the hotbar items. Instead of just copying old school Mario sprites, I tried to make a pixel version of all the modern style items, if that makes sense. Some of these were actually kinda hard to do, but overall I'm happy with the result. I immediately wanted to start with implementing the items, but first off, I realized our card needs a new state for actually getting hit. So I basically added a simple stun mechanic. If certain items hit you, your card does the good old spin and stops dead in its track. This was actually already all we had to do for bananas. Simply using one will drop a banana behind you, and if another card dares to drive over the banana, their card will switch to the hit state. However, gotta be honest here, this might be one of the most cursed models I made. You've already seen me using the mushrooms, so those should be clear. You use it and you get a boost. The only thing interesting here is that I made a custom count system to actually display a unique icon for different item counts. Another item that increases your speed are these superstars. These weren't a challenge, as I simply had to give players the glowing effect, make them invincible to items, and give them a good amount of speed. They felt still lame though, so I just had to give them a little jingle. I downloaded this program called Noteblock Studio, which lets you play around with Minecraft noteblock sounds. I've never done this before, but it wasn't hard to find the notes for this track, so I simply copied them. The program actually lets me export the track to Datapack commands, so let's try it out in-game. As you can see, the proper music does make a big difference here, so I'm glad I took the time to implement that. Green shells were a bit harder, but overall still easy. A green shell will get motion in the direction the player is looking when throwing it. Though I had to play around with the values a lot, since they always have to be faster than the player in order to not hit the player himself. Honestly though, they do kinda give you more options than in Mario Kart.
What? Was that like a...
Yes, let's go!
That?
Good fireball.
How did you hit that,
let's
bro?
Go!
I was not even like a little bit behind you.
And I was gaming.
I also coded them to bounce off walls and break after 5 bounces, just like it works in Mario Kart itself. Ultimately, they should also be able to go up slopes. Funny enough, this took only one line of commands. Finishing the shells up, I coded the item shield mechanic. Basically, 2 or more items will give you a full shield from all sides, while 1 item will only shield you from your back. The way I did this is actually quite interesting, so let me explain it real quick. Once the shell triggers the hit function, go 2 steps back from its direction. Now, rotate to the direction the card has. Finally, go these 2 steps forward again. Is that still a hit? In that case, you hit the player from behind and it should be shielded. Fire flowers make an appearance too. Basically, these were similar to the shells, with the exception that they bounce every time they hit the ground, which works by simply applying some upwards motion. But honestly, looking at the fact that you can spam multiple of those with a single fire flower, it low-key makes them one of the best items in this Datapack. Next up, red shells, and believe me when I say, this is where it gets interesting. First off, I'll provide all red shells with data from the spline. So similar to the player, the red shells will track where on the spline they are. Next, we need to code the AI of these bad boys. Basically, they are split up in 2 individual logics. If there's no player closely in front of you, apply motion in the direction the spline goes. If there is a player in front of you, apply motion towards that player. Seeing these in action is actually so satisfying, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Alright, I think we're ready. Time to code blue shells. Similar to red shells, a blue shell will follow the spline until it finds the best player in the match. The difference here is that the blue shell is not a physics item, because it's guaranteed to hit the player in first. For our Minecraft implementation, this means that blue shells use teleportation rather than motion, which makes it follow the spline more closely. Also, when it reaches the player, it simply goes quite similar to the blue shells where the bullet builds. Using a bullet bill will disable your card controls and simply make you follow the spline. This was actually so satisfying since the spline system was complex to code, but it solved many of the most important tasks we had to code in this project, and that with very little modification. All the most important items were done at this point, so it's time to code item boxes. Driving through an item box will randomly grant you an item. However, the pool of items you can receive depends on the actual players you're on. There are currently 4 different pools, namely Common, Uncommon, Epic, and Legendary. This should hopefully give players on the last places a fair chance. Another thing we had to add was a Key to Rescue system. You see, when you fall off the track in Mario Kart, Lakita comes to rescue you. But how can we copy that? We can easily check in which block we are, which is helpful to rescue us when we fall into water, for example. But tracks like Rainbow Road got void underneath. I guess we could check if the player is underneath a certain Y level, but the track has also a bunch of overlapping parts, so that's not an option. Okay, how about we use markers to mark an area where...
What if we just detect when a cart hits a 0 level light block?
Well, I guess that works too. But of course, first off, I needed a model. I actually recycled the shell model for his body a bit, and even though his cheeks got a little bit big, this model kinda grew on me, I don't know. Coding in the Lakitu mechanic itself wasn't too hard. It simply uses the start point of the last spline you are on. However, I eventually had to define edge cases, because especially in things like glider sections, you don't want to start exactly at the edge. By this time, Grazzy already finished 2 of his tracks, so we were discussing that this map will definitely need some kind of menu. I've played a couple of adventure maps in the past, and most of them use basic buttons or simple redstone elements for all their configurable options. However, I'm a data packer. I don't know how to connect a button to a block. However, when Grazzy used the word menu, I immediately had an image in my head. Item displays give us so many options to create something visually appealing these days, so why not make something that will make our lobby stand out? I spent pretty much an entire night coming up with a system I liked here, and this is what it looks like. So let me show you how it works. First off, type in /function Mariokart host to become the host of this lobby. Alright, so next this menu uses interaction entities, so to select something you simply got to right click. Also, since it uses raycast, you don't actually need to click the block either, it will simply work from a distance. Once you hit play, everyone in your lobby will get joined into the session. You'll then pick a character one after the other. And after that, finally select your track. I guess I should talk about those characters for a second, should I? I made a total of 13 different card variations for all the most important Mario characters. If you paid close attention, however, you'll see that this menu only fits 12 characters. So, what is the last character? You know, a long time ago, Grazzy had the stream where he built a Hinox from Breath of the Wild.
Oh no, I don't like where this is going. What is this? Why is he so caked up? Why not, man? I don't know.
This character is called Chopnox, and it's haunting him ever since. So, honestly, we have no other choice, do we? At this point, August rolled around, which meant I not only had to write exams in university, I also had a vacation plan right after that, which is where I asked Howzieky if he'd like to help with the Datapack so we could finish this map in time. So pardon me for a second.
Implementing gliding was pretty simple. In Mario Kart, when your glider activates, you fall slower and you can't turn as fast. Recreating this with my implementation of the Mario Kart carts was pretty easy because I'm already defining the exact gravity and turn speed values. So I just need to lower those values while the player is gliding. It was a little more complex than that. For example, I also needed to mess with the terminal velocity and stuff, but that's the gist. And since I was already working on the kart's physics, I also rewrote the drifting logic because it was still based on the Master Cycle's physics from Breath of the Wild, which is bad. Turns out, Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart are two different games. Who knew? With the kart physics done, the next thing that I needed to do was add a glider model. Luckily, I'm an artist, and I made this beautiful, perfect model with no flaws and no obvious display of any lack of creative ability. And not to brag, I know this may come as a shock to you, but I actually made this version of the model on my first try. Now, one concern that I did have was the opening and closing animations. I was afraid that there would be some kind of complex animation in Mario Kart that I would have to spend a week recreating. But I played some Mario Kart footage frame by frame, and it looks like it literally just grows when opening and shrinks when closing, which could not be easier for me to implement. And with the opening and closing animations done, the gliding mechanic was almost finished. There was still one more problem. See how this looks when I turn my kart while gliding? It feels so rigid and wooden. It looks bad. To fix that, I used my Master Cycle tilt animation math to angle the kart depending on the direction you're turning, which helped it look a lot better. And now the gliding mechanic is done. I am super proud of this end result, and I'm really looking forward to my amazing glider model not being replaced by Cray when he comes back from vacation and decides to put the finishing touches on the project.
Once I got back from vacation, it was time for some finishing touches on this project. I modded the gliders and added texture variations for every character. Because why settle for one boring glider when you can have 12? However, as the project grew, we eventually noticed that the performance would suffer if we were playing with many players. This happened because the Spline system performs calculations for every line and every line for every player, which normally wouldn't be too bad, but well, it's a Datapack. Though eventually I was able to find a couple edge cases under which I can abort most of the calculations for most of the lines. The performance boost this gave us was actually crazy. Oh yeah, and during playtesting, I thought it was a good time to show Grazzy that thing I made.
I'm ready.
I'm scared.
After this race, I have
What
something
the
else to
fuck?
test too.
Are you what?
What?
Oh my god, Chubnock's car.
I made sure to give it.
Really defined cheeks, okay?
Finally, all our playtesting was complete. We were pretty much at the end of this project when Grazzy was like,
Oh, and by the way, Smallet and Mogswamp are going to be playing this with us.
you're joking, right?
Also, Smallint is going to stream it.
Well, I bet you didn't see this crossover coming. I certainly didn't. Anyways, here's the first match we played.
Controls, I don't even know.
button?
Oh, yeah, I didn't go
Yeah.
over control.
Well, I guess we're gonna find out.
See you later.
I recommend third person.
Yeah, third person
yeah.
view is great.
How do I drift? Shift?
S, it's S.
S, but you can't be holding W or else it implodes
Yeah.
for some reason.
It's a bit awkward, but if you want to rebind your keys to like space bar for S, then you can drift with space bar.
You have to
Is
let
it
go of
F
yourself.
to use your item?
You just right click for an item.
Yeah.
Got it.
Banana! Oh no!
See you later,
How is he so
Mogswamp.
fast?
Noted.
He's ahead of me, and someone's about to get a red shell to the face.
Let's
Oh,
go.
Hit with your scar. No. All right.
That was too fast.
Wait, what? Someone just teleported in front of me, dude. What the heck? I gotta play some Mario Kart music for this, man.
That was
Someone knows what the heck
doing
they're
so
doing because I see
dude.
someone just like drifting all over me.
I'm doing it.
I haven't pressed drift once. I'm looking like an amateur right
Yeah,
now.
I guess
Somehow
I
you're
should
beating
explain
me.
the controls, but it's a lot funnier this way.
I'm coming to get
This
you,
is our warm-up
Howzieky.
bracket. The first
Yeah,
one is
of
warm-up.
course. The warm-up bracket.
Yeah, that's what this is.
Unless I win, that's the good.
Yeah, unless Howzieky wins.
Yeah.
Jopes,
Wait.
did you just break a block on the course?
It does look like someone broke a block,
It made me
yeah.
spin out. I don't know what happened.
I probably hit you with my red shell. 'Cause I'm just that
Does
good.
that not...
Oh no.
It
I
does
keep
work,
missing
but you
the
need
item
a
myself
mushroom for
now.
that.
Oh,
Yeah, there's some shortcut.
Somebody
to
give me a
mushroom.
bullet bill.
noted.
There are bullet bills in this. You can get bullet bills.
Oh, I just keep getting stars over and over again.
Why is there a
Alright.
minefield of bananas right there?
I know. There's just
Are you
an
guys gonna
army.
lap me?
It's the final. It's the final lap. So unless you're
No,
not to, it might happen.
No,
Interesting.
I
Oh,
can't do
you two are
lap.
not beating me. I'm gonna. What? No! What is that? Did you get mushrooms at the end?
Okay.
Spline? Oh my
I'll take
gosh.
second place for my first time
Damn.
winning. You know what?
Dang.
I am not.
I keep flying
That
off
was
that
fun.
corner. That corner is ridiculous.
The Waluigi was not enough to save Markswamp.
Okay.
That was
Here we
terrible, dude.
And that's how we brought Mario Kart into Minecraft. Huge shout out to all the creators that joined us today. Make sure to also check out Grazzy's video on this map, and if you want to know more about how these kart physics work, go check out Howzieky. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content, as I've been working on something really big since the end of January actually, so stay tuned for that one. But for now, I wish you all a beautiful day and goodbye!